Welcome to Grapes and Debates, a podcast where we'll uncork some incredible wine and debate varietals of issues within the restaurant industry, one glass at a time. And now, your hosts and owners of So Napa Grill.
Joe Bates.
2 years.
Yeah,
Wow.
2 years.
That's awesome. Good
And we have Jade Sullivan, our marketing and event coordinator.
I love it.
Jade, come on, you gotta get in here. You're over there fooling around.
Sorry, I was pointed in
You
the
can bump my knee. It's all right.
Yeah. Everything's on. Everything's on. Yeah. Yeah.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Oh, no, it wasn't.
Whoops.
Wasn't. Yeah.
Very proud to introduce Jacob Jata. He is the Southeast Regional Sales Manager for Chappellet
Thanks, Adam.
Vineyards.
Yeah, happy to be here. This is a first for me. I've always wanted to do a podcast. My
Okay.
wife wanted to do a podcast, actually, not about wine, but it's still very cool. And maybe I'll take some tips home.
No, you shouldn't.
Well, we're Christians. She loves Jesus. So, it's all about, faith and relationships and family counseling. I mean, something to that extent.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Feels a little deeper than our podcast.
Yeah.
Look, wine is art. We can get deep too, Like Jesus' first miracle was turning water into wine.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That is true.
Well, welcome, Jade.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. And we had Chappellet wine dinner. We had it last night in New Smyrna,
Yep.
tonight in Ormond, and then tomorrow we'll be in Jacksonville. And we've talked about it for a year. How many times have we said on this podcast what an experience we had at Chappellet?
It was amazing. We were telling Jacob a little bit about it last time, but if you blink, you'll miss it. Right?
Yeah.
It's up a side road, Pritchard Hill, up the mountain. A little crazy getting up there, and just the hospitality, the scenery, the wine, the history.
Meeting Cyril.
Space.
Yeah.
Meeting Cyril and.
The jackets. I heard some great context from your wife, or your wife. I think.
Yes.
It was a cool story. It took a while to get the jackets to you guys, but we're glad you got it.
No,
And
it was-
you're probably one of, no more than 50 people in the world that probably have those jackets.
Oh, that's-
Because and the other 50 are Chappellet the 49 are Chappellet employees.
We're proud of them. We tried to buy them off their.
I heard. I heard.
Well, not we.
Not we.
No, yeah.
Jan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too deep into the podcast, as with every Grapes and Debates, what do we have to start with, Joe?
Grapes.
Grapes. Yes. So we're going to start here with, of all things, a little bit different. We're going to start with a Viognier.
Yeah.
So, Jacob, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the heck is a Viognier?
A Viognier, right?
Oh, a
so
Viognier.
Viognier. Yeah, the phonetic spelling would be VEEOHNAY.
Okay.
Viognier, and it looks like Viognier. It's a very weird word, but it's been a grape grown in the Rhone Valley for a long time, and in California, I don't know how many acres are planted, but it's pretty limited, and we only make maybe 300, 400 cases of this wine at the most. We used to get. There's another famous Napa producer, Dariush, I'm sure you've heard of, that makes a phenomenal Viognier as well. And we used to get some fruit from the same vineyard they were doing their Viognier from. But we changed recently to this Eagle View vineyard in the Russian River Valley. It's owned by the Kunde family, an amazing farming family in Sonoma. And we just love it for what stylistically Viognier doesn't typically have. It's got the hallmark aromas and texture and flavor of Viognier, but it has this different sort of brightness and freshness that I think a lot of Viogniers lack. They tend to be very rich, oily, viscous, but this one's got the zippy, sort of bracing acidity, beautiful freshness and vibrancy that is not typical for Viognier. And that's what I think is really fascinating about it. Most people can't say the grape, let alone remember having one.
Sure.
And then they're like, whoa, I didn't know I liked this. It's the things that surprise us the most that we haven't had naturally, right? So Cabernet is less exciting because people have so much of it. Right. But Viognier is like, whoa, I didn't know I liked this. And it's like, you're somewhere Cabernet always, obviously. Yeah. But Viognier is a fun one.
It is.
Outside of Rhone, is it typically a blending grape, or do you see it as a standalone?
In the U.S., Pine Ridge makes a Chenin Blanc Viognier, but outside of that, there's definitely some smaller amounts of blending being done with it, but for the most part, I see it as a standalone variety. But there are some Rhone Rangers that do, There's probably some people that co-ferment Viognier and Syrah like they do in the Rhone sometimes in California as well. Not small, like 3%, 5%,
Right.
maybe less. But
Jade, when you look at that being the first of the 5 S's site, what do you get?
It's looks like a little bit of a younger wine because of the clear rim around it when you lift it forward. Am I right?
Yeah, you are. I'm getting a little bit of that amber color as well. So that lets me know it's probably not a Sauv Blanc. Then you get the swirl and the smell. Man, that smells good.
it's very flowery.
Flowery?
Very
Yes.
flowery.
It's
Very
richer
floral.
than a Sauv Blanc. It doesn't have that kind of acidity. It's got a little acidity to it, but it's richer on the nose.
But I would.
Floral is great.
Exactly.
Jasmine. I was walking by the jasmine outside, blooming all over. It's like just so beautiful perfume.
I didn't get a chance to try this last night.
You missed out because that was one of my favorite pairings actually with the
I thought with the
Gougères.
Gougères,
Yeah.
Again, it's one of those things that's spelled like gorgeous as whatever, but it's pronounced Gougère.
Gougère.
Yeah,
Yeah, filled with some goat cheese. Perfect. Great pairing.
the goat cheese had just enough kind of pungent flavor and the roundness of this Viognier. Paired perfectly.
You guys are experts at saying it now too. Like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, this is probably the only Viognier that'll ever be on the podcast, but we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. You
There's
could
not
be
a lot
right.
from Sonoma or Napa. I mean, there's really
No.
not. I don't know how many acres is planted at Eagle View Vineyard, but I would suspect it's not more than 10 acres.
We circle back around to Kunde. They are a beautiful property in Sonoma, but it was a shame that they got caught up in that whole. Was that company that went bankrupt?
Vintage Wine Estates, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were part of Vintage Wine.
Yeah,
Estates.
they've moved around a little bit. I mean, farming families are interesting. I don't know how I don't recall all the Kunde history, but I mean, a long-term family in Sonoma, and I think
beautiful property.
I think what's amazing is you've got these people that have thousands sometimes, or at least hundreds of acres that they're farming and selling fruit off, and they realize like they want to get a little bit more skin in the game, and they want to start to make their own wine naturally because there's almost like less. I don't want to say respect because it's not the right term, but it's like you get there's a different perspective when you make your own wine and you got your label versus you're just farming it, right? And I don't think that's proper, so to speak. It's just like the chef at the restaurant, you know what I mean? Like if it's not the chef's name on the restaurant, does that mean it's not at a level, right? But so there are some producers that have done this over the years, and some that maybe shouldn't have. I'm not saying that's Kunde's situation, but there's quite a few, like the Pinot Noir we did, the Dutton family. They farm a lot of land, but make a little bit. San Giacomo for the Chardonnay, farm a lot of land, make a little bit. They kind of want to get it. It's vertical integration too. It makes sense.
Who's the most prestigious farmer that doesn't make their own grapes?
I don't know. There's so many.
Okay.
Beckstoffer for sure. Because
They own that.
well, he owns 89 acres of Tokalon.
Okay.
Yeah, so Andy Beckstoffer farms and does not make a single wine. And definitely the most famous grape grower.
His name is.
His name's on every bottle. Well, every bottle he sells, right? Or that buys fruit from him. And I think it was either Schrader or Paul Hobbs that first did that in the 1999 or 2000 vintage. I think Schrader might have been 99 and Paul Hobbs was 2000. And there's a argument about who did it first, but that was the first time Tokalon went on label. And of course, there's a whole other story about Tokalon with Constellation,
Right.
And and it's still in battle in the legal system. But we'll see where it goes.
So you have that, but then if you go back over to Sonoma, you mentioned the San Giacomo.
San Giacomo.
Yeah. You've got Dutton's. I'm trying to think from a Chardonnay perspective. Another big.
Like Lee Hudson. Larry Hyde. I mean, they're both Carneros primarily, but phenomenal growers. Martinelli's, I think.
Yeah, that's it. That was it. Martinelli.
Yeah, Martinelli. Yeah, I mean, they make their own wine too, of course. But there's
some really.
Everybody started out
growers.
growing. Well, not everybody, but it's not that typical for the winery and the vineyards to be at the same site always. Similar to like Bordeaux or, in Burgundy. I don't think there's any wineries. I haven't been, but I don't think there's any wineries might be one or two that are within the vineyard, the construct of the vineyards. It's such a premium value of land that it doesn't make sense to build them within there. Have you guys been to Maroon?
No.
I haven't been. So, but I don't think so. It's just such a premium, very small amount of land.
Oh, well, let's get back to Chappellet. Well,
What is?
Is it Napa becoming that?
Well, there's 600 brick and mortar wineries, or about 550, I believe, and there's about 2,000 brands. So there's definitely, fewer and fewer that are family owned and operated, like Chappellet for sure. And I think there's probably some of those that we'll see, some contraction within to an extent. But
we had a debate the other day, and I want to circle back around to it. But speaking of Chappellet, how many cases are produced?
we're somewhere in the range of 40,000 to 50,000.
40 to 50,000
with Mountain Cuvée being about half of the production.
Okay. And then, from my understanding, you're considered a boutique winery if you're under 50,000, more or less?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
It's a good...
Reserve on the label or old vines?
We have used the word old vine before, and we've used the word reserve before, but currently we're not using either.
Right.
But no, it's unique. I mean, we own the largest amount of land on Pritchard Hill. Mm-hmm. It's 640 acres that Don Chappellet purchased in 1967. He purchased 320 acres in 67, built the second winery after Prohibition. Moved him and his wife, Molly, who's 94, and their 5 kids. They moved up from LA, and it was just like this amazing story of like risk and like just really trying to live like this life that they'd always dreamed of, like in the wild, almost, so to speak, like, which
it's like Grizzly Adams.
It was so, I hear some of the kids, I say kids, they're in their 60s talking about it, and some of them say like they had heard these stories of their, grandparents talking about living in sort of more rural areas, and their experiences were very different living in LA, of course, naturally, and they had always like maybe idealized these things. And when Don started to pursue making wine, I mean, naturally the first place to look was Napa Valley, especially being in California, and he collected wine from Napa, but really was primarily Bordeaux and a little bit of Burgundy, and he thought this was the great opportunity for him and to move his family out there. And I think the risk definitely paid off, but it was a big
Huge
gamble. Gamble.
Who knew that long ago how awesome Pritchard Hill was? Because at the time, everyone thought he was.
They
probably thought he was crazy for going up to the top of the hill.
Totally. I'm going to Napa and make wine, but I'm not going to make it on the valley floor where it's easy and flat. I'm going to go up the side of this mountain. I'm going to make it on the side of a mountain, and where it's difficult. But then, I mean, the payoff is
right.
What's in the bottle here?
It is, without a doubt, one of the top terroirs to grow Cabernet Sauvignon in the world. No question. And there's only 10 wineries up there. You got Continuum, Bryant, Ovid, Realm, Colgan, David Arthur, Brand, Gandona. Very much smaller than us, actually.
Well, no.
Easily. 300 and up. The average price is probably close to 400 or 500 with Colgan and Bryant really pulling the upper end of the spectrum.
I think it could have been Wine Spectator that coined it the Rodeo Drive of Napa Valley.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's. I mean, LVMH owns Colgan. I'm not sure if it's 100% owned by LVMH, but I mean that's $800 maybe $900 or so.
I overheard you last night at the wine dinner talking to Tony just a little bit, and you were sitting at the table as well, just about how unique that property is and west facing, so it's getting that afternoon sun. It's really got a terroir and a microclimate, if you will, that's different than anywhere else in the entire valley. Can you just expand on that maybe a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, there'll be some subjective comments here, I'm sure, but at the same time, like as far as facts go, like I would say it is.
But we don't fact check.
No fact check.
We don't.
That's good. Well, it is.
Every now and then I do, but no.
It's a large property. I mentioned 640 acres. About only 16% is planted to vine, so 105 acres. Which you might think, well, why don't you plant the rest of it, you can make a lot more wine or make more money, right? Well, it's not exactly the way the Chappellets think. Yes, it's a for-profit business. They want this thing to grow, but they're where they live. I mean, Molly raised her 6 kids there. Dawn passed in 2016, but our CEO, Cyril, and his wife, Blakesley, live at the property. Dominic, the COO and youngest son of Don and Molly, and Amy, his wife, live at the property. And it is so unique. Each individual of those 105 acres, we've got about 80%, 85% planted the Cabernet Sauvignon. And each of those, we've learned a lot over almost 60 years of farming, naturally a lot of trial and error. And each one of those blocks, we've separated into about 40 different blocks of Cabernet Sauvignon. 7 different clones, 4 different rootstocks, each one of them specifically tailored for that specific block on our property. And most of the soil, very rocky, big boulders. We've actually got a section, and if you walk all the way up through the vineyards, you'll get to like the boulder garden. It's this, massive rock pile. Not quite as big as Stagecoach's rock pile, but it's a big pile of big rocks that Molly had fashioned into like this sort of sculpture in a sense. And it is so unique. You got ranges of elevation from 800 feet to 1,600 feet. It overlooks Lake Hennessy, and so you've got this amazing, gorgeous view, but you get kind of an inverse relationship with what happens in the valley, where you're above the fog line, so it's warmer in the morning, closer to the sun naturally, and then when the spike comes in the afternoon, and you got sometimes, not always, but let's say over 100 or maybe higher in Napa Valley, we've got a much different ecosystem and natural habitat on the hillside there, much lower in temperature. So sort of an inverse relationship. But we actually have vineyards facing all 4 directions. All of our row orientation varies depending upon the clone, the rootstock, the soil type. I mean, they are super dialed in, and I would say someone you would want to get on your podcast in the future would be someone who focuses just on viticulture, to like kind of nerd out, because when they start talking about this stuff, you're just like, how do you, huh? And it brings up all these other questions, because you're talking about like stuff that you can't see, like stuff below the surface. And we kind of know, but we don't really know. I mean, we you can dig down and stuff. And the joke was Molly broke a shovel every time that she was trying to plant a vineyard, but.
Well, you've had a lot of turnover at the winemaker position, right?
Oh, yeah. I'm the new guy with 8 years at Chappellet, right? Philip Titus, 1989.
1989.
It was just announced like 2 months ago that he's going to move into an advisory type role. And Rye Richards, who's been with us 20 years, working with Philip in winemaking, is going to assume that role. He's been the winemaker role for many years already, but Philip's, I don't know how old you are, Philip, but you know, and I don't need to share it. But essentially,
he's retiring.
He's moving on, and he's got his own winery as well, called Titus.
Yeah,
Titus
I've seen that. Yeah,
very high.
That's 60 years of combined experience on that.
And the vineyard guys, we have Enrique Rodriguez, who's been with us over 50 years. Dave Purio, our vineyard operations director, just retired after 38 years, and similar to like Rye and Philip's relationship. Andrew took over for his uncle Dave after working with him 15 years. So it's an amazing sort of pedigree, like mentor-mentee or like relationship that's happening.
Well, tell us what we have in the glass right now. We've got the Mountain Cuvée, which happens to be what your most popular?
Absolutely.
And that is on our menu. It is one of my favorites. It's under Adam's picks.
This wine is, I've heard some people describe it different ways, but I would say it is best bang for your buck in Napa Valley, right? This is the window onto Pritchard Hill. This is an opportunity for people to become familiar with Chappellet at a very, very affordable price relative to what Napa goes for these days. It started as a private label for Walt Disney World back in the 90s. So if the wine didn't make the cut for the signature Cabernet, we sold it off in bulk. It was good, but it wasn't quite good enough. And so Disney was a large customer on the signature Cabernet. Price was going up a little bit beyond where they would typically like the wines to be in their segment. And we didn't want to lose all that business. Cyril's told me that he went back to Philip at the winery and said, can you make something a little more affordable? And we made this Chappellet Mountain Cuvée as a private label for Walt Disney World for its initial release.
Wow.
And it really just kind of grew from there with other people wanting to get a little bit more of it, and it just gradually expanded beyond our own, declassified Pritchard Hill fruit to become, some purchased Napa fruit and then a little bit into Sonoma as well. So all hillside fruits.
Sure.
Primarily Cabernet, about 50%
And
Cab.
some of it estate.
Some of it
purchased.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, so a little over 50% Cab, about a quarter Merlot, and the remaining quarter is Petit Verdot, Cab Franc, and Malbec. Yeah. So the cepage or the blend breaks down differently every year. But
Sure.
All right. This was a debate that we had, and I just want to circle back around. Maybe we can revisit with you regarding if somebody came out to Napa today, let's say Don Chappellet shows up or somebody like him, he finds the 690 acres, 649 acres at the top of Pritchard Hill today and wanted to buy that land today and wanted to start a label. Is it even possible unless you are just a billionaire?
No, it's not possible.
Right.
It's not possible.
You would never be able to make money.
Well, not just that. It is a finite resource, land on Pritchard Hill, obviously, right? There is only about 330-ish acres, from what I've read, about the size of Pritchard Hill as far as planted acreage goes. Chappellet has a third. Continuum's got about 50. So you got about half between those two. Now, planting new acreage can happen. Colgan, I don't know how much they spent, but let's just say $500 to $1 million an acre for development. And then obviously how long I've heard they did the most unreal excavating to create this, because it's just sheer rock in some places, obviously. But Colgan has a different financial backing than most wineries, let's just say, with Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy. And there is very strident, very strict policies in place to prohibit hillside planting. Very challenging. So I would love it if we planted more. I mean, the hope is always that we could plant a little bit more, but at the same time, it is very difficult to just expand upon your own property and plant more. And to give you some context for valuation, the Gandona property, I think it's about 20 acres planted, about 50 acres in totality. I've heard it's on the market for around $50 million.
Okay, so yeah, $1 million an acre.
They say it's about $1 million an acre. It's definitely one of the top terroirs in the world, and certainly in Napa for Cabernet Sauvignon, of which Don had kind of a fraction of an idea, I think. The whole reason he went there in the first place was Andrei Chelichev, who was the winemaker at BV, who told him, look, I can make great wines in the valley, but if I got more fruit from up in the hillsides, I can make a better wine. And Molly tells a story just like that. I've never got to meet Don, unfortunately, but there's no doubt that hillside Cabernet is significantly different than valley Cabernet.
Sure.
And we've spoken about Chelichev on this
numerous times.
Yeah. Can you spell his name, though? That's the hard one.
Yeah, no, you know what?
You said it right, though.
Close.
Yeah, it's hard.
Chelichev. And what's he known as the dean of winemaking or the maestro of wine?
Absolutely. I like to say he did for Napa on the winemaking side what Mondavi did for sales and marketing.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said Chappellet was the second new winery to open, because several kind of coasted through
after Prohibition.
Correct.
Yeah.
The second new winery after Prohibition.
Yep.
Was it Mondavi?
Yes. Yeah, Mondavi was 66 and Chappellet was 67.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and he actually, I mean, not surprisingly, I mean, naturally, everyone knows that a rising tide lifts all ships, right? And so there was a lot of collaboration across the valley in those days, for sure. And there still is, without a doubt. But our winery was not finished in time to crush the 68 vintage, which was not our first commercial release, but our first vintage was 68. Mondavi had just built the winery. Who do you think helped us crush all that wine? We brought it all down to Mondavi. Wow. I heard Heights helped with some bottling or storage. And Schramsberg also helped with some storage as well. Okay. When we kind of outgrew Mondavi space. So
and Joe Heights, Joe Heights was essentially a mentee of Andrei Chelichev when they were at BV together.
Definitely.
And Yeah.
The reach is fascinating when you start to peel back the layers. You're like, this person helped this person, help this person. I mean,
Yeah.
Sucking all this in.
I should have brought my notebook.
yeah, lots of history.
But you know the cool thing?
Rewind everything.
We
I really do.
I would say a few podcasts ago, not that many, we met a gentleman by the name of Steve Reynolds.
Oh,
Reynolds
he was
family.
here?
Yeah, he
I
was.
love Steve. He's a great guy.
He's one of the coolest that
Yeah.
I can't wait to see him in May when we go out there. Just talking to him, and he's relatively new to the game. 1990 is when he purchased his property.
Yeah.
So you compare 1990 to
67.
1967.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a lot of years that he had to make up. But the cool thing was, he said how welcoming the wine community has been.
That's great.
You know, as you're
Yeah.
dedicated to sustainable practices, taking care of the land, leaving it better than where you found it.
Yeah.
I mean, those very principles, which guide almost all the family-owned wineries, is just it's an awesome thing to hear when you hear from somebody like Steve Reynolds.
I love it. I think of the word stewardship, right?
Yes.
And you can, I just saw it last night with your chefs in the restaurant. Like, you're bringing one over to the new location. I hope I can say that.
Yeah, 100%.
Daytona Beach shores. And secret's out.
Secret is
Don't market our new location, guys. But the brother, right? The brother of the chef. Well, you're going to promote one naturally because you're going to pull one
Sure.
to go to Daytona, and you're going to promote one internally. I love, and it was a brother, two brothers working together. That'd be so cool. Like, I'm sure you guys feel like brothers from time to time, but yeah.
Joe.
I missed out the look side. It's fantastic, and it's the same way out there.
Yeah.
Nobody gets to help up without helping the next guy.
Totally.
Right.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, and look at the relationships with Philip and Rye, and then Dave and Andrew on the vineyard side. And I would say it's happened on so many aspects, especially and I see it even with like the master sommelier community as well.
Yeah.
You've got master somms training people to pull up through advanced somm and hopefully go up there. I mean, there's no doubt that we learn from others, certainly.
Right.
Sure.
If there was a niche specialty market of becoming a master somm of Sonoma and Napa, I'm in.
You're in.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a cool.
About Hungary or Georgia or
I don't even really care much about the left bank, the right bank.
I love your focus. I mean, you are. Well, I said to you last night. I was like, you've got to be like an expert in Napa to an extent.
I
Like,
would say, well, Napa and Sonoma, I'd say we're pretty well versed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
you were talking about some 40 odd blocks, different roof stocks. Do you do some single block stuff, just vineyard only?
Currently, so
That's maybe not.
yes, absolutely. We've done different things over the years, but with the 2016 vintage, we launched what was called the Mountain Estates. And the aim of it was to highlight a couple different parcels that we think are really unique in their terroir and the way the wine comes from those blocks. We've really been focused on this hideaway vineyard, which is a 15-acre parcel just next to Continuum, actually, but not contiguous to the main area where the winery is.
Okay.
So if you were coming up to the winery, there's a sign that says like Cyril's house and Continuum, and you go up that way.
Okay.
And back off that road about maybe a mile or so. It's probably like about 3 to Continuum, but it's like 1 to the hideaway entrance. And it's a 15-acre, a really flat parcel, but amazing exposure to wind and sun, and just 5 different blocks. We've got different clones on the blocks, but different soil type than the rest of the Chappellet property.
Yeah.
So much more red, different soil. And so we make this hideaway vineyard. It takes its name actually from an area or from a group of hunters that used to go hang out at the hideaway.
Okay.
And they go, and Don was like, I got people like not too far away shooting off like guns trying to like go hunting, and I got my kids roaming the land because Dominic has said like there were no boundaries, so to speak, like where they could go explore, which is pretty cool when you think about having a 600-acre playground. But Don bought that parcel, the Hideaway Vineyard,
Oh, nice.
basically the next year after he moved up there with his family. And
Right after he heard the gunshots.
Gunshots.
It's a good idea to...
let's protect the kids. Let's buy this property. And we actually first planted the Chenin Blanc back in the day, which is really crazy.
Still making Chenin Blanc?
Yeah, it's one of our most sought after wines, without a doubt.
No, I think we had it. We had it at the
Yeah,
winery.
you definitely would have.
100%. You wanted to...
Yeah, one of your, I think it was your wife that said last night, she said it's her like new favorite wine. And she had some friends that came over not too long ago and she shared a bottle with them. And the next day she's like, I'm not letting this go to waste. So she polished that baby off the next day because it's a good bottle of Chenin. But yeah.
That sounds more like Jen than Shannon. You know,
It might have been Chris's wife.
it was.
Yeah, it wasn't Shannon. Yeah, you're right. It was Chris's wife. Sorry.
I think she walked out of there with about $5,000 worth of wine.
She was the one who offered to buy the jacket.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah, she wanted to buy them right off the ground.
I know.
I was like, no, this is my chance.
Yeah. And she's like, everything's got a price. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. I agree. Everything does have a price. But sometimes.
Now, just having gone from the Mountain Cuvée, which I enjoy,
Oh, sure.
to the Cabernet,
Yeah.
which I didn't get a chance to do last night. Wow, this cab is actually softer than the Mountain Cuvée.
The polish and the elegance to this wine is significant for sure. I mean, these are there's a different pedigree to this wine, right? There's a different finesse. There's a different, I wouldn't say treatment of grapes or anything like that. This is just a difference in the caliber of of the raw material, truly. So,
What do you think, Joe?
I'm just getting my nose in
Oh.
right now. Yeah. I mean, I did try it.
The
last
third
night.
S.
It's fantastic.
Jade, the third? What's the fourth?
Oh, sip.
Did you
savor.
sip it?
I already sipped it.
What'd you think?
Oh, I like it. All these wines are very middle tongue feel. Whoa.
Okay, so yeah, I would say
Mid-palate, I like it.
mid-palate,
Yeah.
Mhm.
mid-tongue, mid-palate.
Whatever. You knew what I was talking about.
Right.
So it feels like it hits all of the tongue.
Yeah, it does. Like at first, it's nice and grippy,
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
and in the beginning, and then it does linger in the middle of my mouth.
Okay.
Mm.
But I like it. It really good. I would eat it. I would drink it with steak,
Absolutely.
like a nice medium rare.
Mm.
Went out with the lamb shank last night. That was pretty tasty.
Yeah. Sean and the team did a great job.
They did. They're the best.
It was a nice menu.
Is this all steak?
Almost. Yeah,
Almost.
almost. Yeah, this was first made in 1980 when Don Chappellet saw the signature as a way to highlight really the vintage was so superior. He's like, I got to do something special with this vintage. And so they hemmed and hawed about kind of what the direction was going to be with how they would change the labeling in some capacity because he wanted to increase the price accordingly, which is exactly what the Bordeaux do. When they have a great vintage, the price goes up a little bit. When it's not as ideal, they come down.
I didn't know that.
And so that was the Bordeaux model that he wanted to follow for that vintage in particular. And Cyril has said, Dad, why don't you sign the bottle? And that became the signature cab. That was the impetus.
That's
for the
what it is.
signature cab.
Okay.
So that was 80. Didn't do it 81, 82, or 83. It came back 84. And if you go to the winery, you can see on the wall every vintage from 69 through 2022, 23 probably.
Okay.
And you can see the transition actually with no signature on 81, 82, or 83.
Okay.
And it came back 84 as a consistent thing going forward. And that was the top of the pyramid for Chappellet, so to speak. And actually, it's kind of funny if you've been to the winery, it's a pyramid actually as well,
Oh, yeah.
which is where our logo is derived from. But it's a beautiful wine. 79% Cab this vintage, 8 Petit Verdot,
Okay.
7 Malbec, 6 Merlot.
Okay.
And then the Pritchard Hill, which we're probably not going to get into before the end of the podcast. Why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Pritchard Hill is unreal. I mean, this is a singular wine, the purest expression of our property. It is the best of the best from our parcels. We have an idea generally what parcels these are going to be. Naturally, it's going to be the higher elevation ones for sure. But essentially, no one gets a first, a pass, right? Everything comes in, everything's farmed like it would go into this bottle of
Right.
wine. So the utmost attention, the most meticulous effort is going into these vineyards to begin with. And so only after the wines come in and they're harvested and vinified and barrel aged do we go through the blind tasting process of determining what is Pritchard Hill quality and what's close to Pritchard Hill quality. Right. Because we're splitting hairs almost. I mean, this is it's a different pedigree of wine for sure. Right. But as far as the quality
Do
goes,
you get involved in that blind tasting?
I don't know that I could.
Really?
Or that I honestly, tasting young Cabernet, it takes experience for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I have a good palate, but these guys have
Sure.
next level palates. So
Are all the blocks vinified separately?
Yeah.
And then
Correct.
tasted and then blended?
correct. Yeah. So it's like
just-
assembled, then disassembled, then reassembled. You know, like
Do they do any barrel fermentation?
I know the Chardonnay definitely goes through barrel
Okay.
fermentation. I don't know that we do any barrel fermentation on the reds, to my knowledge, but it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
So this is the elite of the elite.
Yeah.
But what doesn't make it here
Goes
is
in
here.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah. And we're really splitting hair. Like
because
there's
this is not an everyday drinker.
no,
for most people.
no. There's definitely we rank them A, B, C, D. I don't know that they've ever. I've never heard them say those are D lots, but like I'd assume there's not many C's or D's really,
right.
because the quality is super super high. There's no doubt about it. And so it's essentially just selecting what we think has the purest, most singular, most beautiful. And sometimes, there's an intensity and concentration to it for sure. But as far as, some people, they're like, I can taste the difference. Some people are like, I like Signature better. Some people, I like Mountain Cuvée better.
Right.
It's amazing that each one of these represents a significant value at each price point relative to the competitive landscape of
I
wine.
heard you last night, and I know you're a little biased.
Yeah.
But you said this is one of the best Cabernets on the planet.
Well, I've heard my president. No.
Just you say.
Well, we've gotten some 100-point scores.
Yeah.
This was 98 for this vintage. The 23 that comes out in the fall has 200-point scores. It is not uncommon for this wine to be ranked amongst the best. Yeah. At still a fraction of what those wines, some of those wines go for.
Sure.
Right. So, and maybe have a whole nother podcast about just the pricing of wine in general. That could be another topic for sure.
One of our listeners or guests get their hands on.
I mean, the best way to get it is So Napa, right?
Well, obviously, that's one of the best ways. But we have listeners,
Absolutely.
millions of listeners.
You would go to our website, www.chappellet.com, and click on Acquire, essentially. So it is, without a doubt, our most coveted wine on the Cabernet side, for sure. And the way we structured it recently is the Hideaway Vineyard that we make in a single 100% Cabernet wine. Those two wines go in tandem with each other for sort of what we call the allocation club. So Pritchard Hill is released in the fall, and the Hideaway is released in the spring.
Okay. How many cases are made of the?
We range. I want to say it's like 3,000 to 5,000.
Okay.
Yeah, it does fluctuate from year to year. Yes, exactly.
Nice. Well, I got to tell you, it was drinking beautifully last night. I thought I was in a little bit of heaven when I was sipping.
Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Great stuff. Great story. Great family.
Yes, and we can't wait to take our
Go
wine.
back.
We're going out there. We're going to be in May. We've actually got 2 tastings set up. So our first group is from May 5th. They arrive. We're tasting on the 6th. So I believe we're going to be in or at Chappellet the afternoon of the 6th, and then again on the 9th.
Yeah.
So two trips to Chappellet. I can't wait to take our wine club members there. It is so beautiful. But thank you for your partnership. Thank you for
Welcome.
Bringing the wines and hosting these wine dinners with us.
And it's going to be hard to outdo your last experience at Chappellet, but it's possible that we've got some surprises and tricks up our sleeves for you guys.
Fantastic.
I know.
Sure that you do.
We went to the top of Pritchard Hill and drank.
Pritchard.
I know. The Polaris is one of the coolest ways to see the property, without a doubt. There's no doubt that's my favorite thing to do. Personally, I get to drive them too, which
that's cool.
Which I love.
Jacob, thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
It's such a blessing. Thank you.
As we finish every
Podcast, taste,
taste
toast together.
Taste it together. Thank you.